I talked about the Emperor Meiji, but that's not just for Japan. That pressure from this traditional royal robe into the modernized Western suit was also pressured on Emperor Gojong of Korea or Joseon Dynasty, Korean Empire in Korea, so that he also decided to suddenly cut his hair, and then adopt the British style clothes and lots of decorations and saber. Like this is not really used in Asian military history, but it's accessories that must come with this type of military hat. So that is following this, responding to this. And you may wonder, then what happened to China? So you will see examples of Empress Shishi, who was the grandmother of last Emperor Pu Yi. So if you see these family photographs, I want some of you to analyze this this card. Okay, so let me see. Go to this. Okay. So can anybody talk about homogeneity or diversity in these family photographs? One side, the left side, is King Sunjong and his queen of Korea, 1907. And then the image on the right is Japanese imperial family, like Emperor Meiji's family from 1900s. Rachel?
I guess you would say the military dress for men looks more westernized.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they are westernized, but whereas Rachel?
Oh, sorry. Whereas like the women in like the first photo on the left was the typical, traditional dress towards their culture. And I'm trying to see in the Japanese imperial family that the women have also taken the silhouette of westernization, while as their children kept traditional dress.
So Rachel, you really nailed it down, like what I try to focus on. So this is what you should think about: the power of authority, right? Like you can access. So these men, why the King Sunjong and Japanese imperial male members, why they adopted a military uniform. I usually say it's for survival or for their advantages, right? Like you in a diplomatic setting, you don't want to look really ethnic or primitive or old-fashioned, right? Like you don't want to look that way, right? You want to be as an equal to anybody in terms of business and national security, right? So that's why they dressed up as European military leaders, the way the British king was like, or Prussian Empire was, emperor was like, right, with lots of decorations. But who is dictating dress code for women and children? Have you ever thought about this? Who's dictating dress code for women and children? Rachel?
Well, during like the turn of the century and even prior, there wasn't really a specific gender-based fashion. Sorry, a huge truck is passing by. For children, they kind of wore the same thing, and then as they grew older, then they started dressing into, typical menswear, womenswear. Like you could see that in like early, like 18th century paintings of like royals. Like the men. I mean, like the little boys looked like
girls,
right?
Yeah, right.
They didn't have a specific children's wear of like girls and boys until maybe the 20th century.
Yeah, that's very good point, Rachel. So people usually say, you know, like no gender boundaries for children, and then it's also called the discovery of childhood. The way we started to distinguish childhood versus adulthood is very much the idea of post-industrial revolution. So previously, if you remember, like when the Industrial Revolution just started around the 1790s or 1800, child labor was prevalent. Do you remember this? Like you know, little child as young as 9, 10, 11, they were working in the mining fields or they were working in textile companies, right? Because their hands are smaller. They are easier to manipulate in a way, right? They don't complain. So they use the children as laborers. But around the 1850s, you start to see that public education system. So they now saw that extreme conditions of persecution or abuse on children. So they, you know, sent children of a certain age to school, like in the beginning of the public education, right? So that's the discovery of childhood. So around the 1900s, what I want to emphasize in this particular family photograph is men dictate dress code for women and children. So for in Japanese case, they began modernization the first among East Asian countries. So they quickly adopted the British Empire system. So men and women both dressed in full European style, but they left their children in traditional clothes. It's not that they cannot afford having European children's clothes, right? They are certainly capable of, but they thought that maintaining the Japanese identity for children is important for them. And that's how they dictated that dress code for children. And if you come to King Sunjong and his queen in Korea's case, men willingly embraced their westernized suit. Not because they really liked it, but because they found it necessary. But for women, because women didn't participate much in public business or public affairs, they wanted to maintain that traditional garment. So the full-length robe that Queen dressed herself is actually called wansam, and then she has that big headpiece, sort of a ceremonial robe. And then they both have sashes around their shoulders so that they can put decorations, right, or words on that ribbon.